Hello everyone, our names are Valentino Acevedo,
And my name is Samuel Lopez.
and today we're going to talk to you about the drug trafficking problem. But first of all, we need to understand what is drug trafficking. Drug trafficking refers to the to the illicit global drug trade, which often involves cultivation and production and trade of these illegal products.
Okay, interesting. Now I want to ask you some question, like how drug trafficking connects with guerrillas and armed groups.
Well, in many historical and contemporary settings, armed insurgencies and trafficking networks have formed transactional relationships. For example, guerrilla groups have taxed or directly controlled crops and trafficking routes to finance weapons and logistics, turning political conflict into an economic balance. That fusion alters the character of a conflict because it mixes ideological arms with aims with extractive incentives, and it transforms a local governance. For example, areas under such influence often witness reduced state presence, parallel authorities, and civilians forced into survival strategies between competing factors.
Okay, so interesting. Now I want to talk about why people usually fall into drug trafficking. So, in many places, the decision to join into drugs economy looks less like a moral filter and more like a rational response to constrained options like chronic poverty, lack of decent jobs, weak public services, and the everyday absence of state institutions, make illicit cultivation or work for trafficking networks one of the few available ways to feed a family or pay a school fees. So, that basic economic incentive is shaped and amplified by local social dynamics. Communities where are born illicit money rises and values and provides quick cash. A cultural messages that at times glorify the narco lifestyle and pair networks that normalize risk choices. So, what appears as individual choice is usually the product of structural pressures and limited horizons.
Alright, but I want to ask you a question. Have you or any member of your family encountered or have crossed paths with this illegal trade?
Okay. In my memory that I remember, I don't remember that. Me and my family didn't have a problem like an economical problem or a failure to pay my school or the university of my sister. We don't have the necessity to join to the drug trafficking or the illegal work that is very important or very I don't know how to say it, very important part of the history of Colombia.
Alright. So, uh, we we need to understand how narco trafficking creates political tensions and corrodes institutions. This happens because the influence of illicit money frequently leaks into formal politics through bribery, campaign financing, patronage, and, in extreme cases, direct attempts to capture offices and intimidate opponents, producing a phenomenon of the called as narcopolitics. The result is weakened rule of law, selective enforcement, and citizen distrust in institutions, when local elites and police officials depend on or collude with traffickers. Policy choices, like about policing public works and land titling, can serve private illegal interests rather than the common good, often deepening polarization and violence within the communities.
Okay, I want to ask you, you are agree or disagree with the drug trafficking? Like the decision of the more poor persons or more marginated communities that is I don't know, that is an obligation to join to the drug trafficking. You are agree with that or not?
In my case, well, of course, I do understand the necessity of people to join this world because of economic shortages, or they, I don't know, have like a missing familiar or something, and they are forced into this world to as a means to solve their problems. But I disagree with that because I know that the state can implement programs and can help the victims of the families and the families itself with these problems.
Okay, so interesting. Now, I want to talk what happens to those people or individual community persons or yes, community consequences. So, people who becomes part of trafficking chains often pay a price that is measured in violence, loss and long-term harm, exposure to armed confrontations and repressions, forced displacement of entire families, and a high prevalence of psychological trauma including PTSD, anxiety, and depression. Communities caught in crossfire suffer breakdowns of trust, stigma toward anyone perceived as danger by illicit trade and generational cycle where children grow up with few illegal role models. The public health footprint is large because trauma, addiction, and social marginalization are hard to reverse without sustained services.
Alright. Now I'm going to say additional angles you can see this topic from. For example, like economy, culture, gender, health, environment, etc. Because beyond the central threats about the narco traffic history, touches many other domains like illicit economies that distort local markets and real estate, and money laundering that connects rural produce to urban finance. Popular culture and media representation can glamorize narco figures, shaping young people's aspirations, and gender dynamics mean that women are both victims and participants in unique ways, facing sexual violence and social exclusion as often as they are recruited or coerced into logistical roles. And we can also see some sort of environmental damage from cultivation and clandestine labs that devastates ecosystems, and there are strong links between drug networks and other crimes such as human trafficking and organized exploitation, which complicate both humanitarian and law enforcement responses. We need experts to study each of these dimensions and as bringing problems to the people who study and that are in charge of these responses. Right.
Okay, interesting.
But I want to ask you a question.
Tell me.
There is a way out of this problem?
Okay, there is not a secret that so many persons that are included in this world of the drug trafficking want to get out or to move it to this world. So, a certain drug economy is possible, but fragile. Successful individual cases usually combine skills, training, temporary economic support, psychological care, and social network that sets that person back. Without those components, returns to illicit work are common. At the public policy level, reintegration programs and livelihood projects can reduce recidivism when they are well funded, locally tailored and sustained over time. But the evidence shows mixed results where programs are short-lived, poorly coordinated or undermined by insecurity and corruption, meaning that exit requires both individual support and durable state support.
Alright.
Okay?
That's all for the episode of today.
Thank you very much to watch us.
Listen to us and stay informed.
Alright.
Bye.